Hey guys, welcome back to Amber Resilience Co. If you're new here, my name's Amber, and this podcast is where I talk openly about chronic illness, trauma, healing, resilience, and what it really feels like surviving things that permanently change you. Today's episode is probably the hardest one I've recorded so far, because this episode isn't just about POTS. It's about the connection between my POTS, my CPTSD, emotional abuse, mental abuse, and growing up in survival mode for so long that eventually my body stopped knowing the difference between danger and normal life. And I want to say this before I start. I'm not sharing this for pity. I'm sharing it because I know there are people listening who feel crazy in their symptoms, people whose bodies started breaking down after trauma, people who have spent years blaming themselves for things their nervous systems were never meant to carry alone. And if that's you, I hope this episode makes you feel understood. Because for me, my trauma story and my chronic illness story were never separate, they grew together. I think one of the saddest things about childhood trauma is how you don't realize it's trauma while it's happening. You just think that's what life is. You think everybody feels anxious all the time. You think everybody walks on eggshells. You think everybody studies people's moods before entering a room, and you adapt. And growing up around emotional and mental abuse teaches you how to survive before it teaches you how to live. I became hyper aware very young. I could feel tension before words were even spoken. I learned how to read energy like it was a second language. Tone changes, silences, mood swings, footsteps, facial expressions. My nervous system was constantly scanning for danger because danger felt unpredictable. When your body lives in that state long enough, it changes you physically. That's the part people don't talk about enough. Trauma is not just emotional pain. Trauma lives in the body, it lives in the nervous system. I think for years my body was carrying stress it was never designed to hold. Like a computer with too many tabs open for too long, eventually something overheats. I remember symptoms starting young, and at first it was confusing because nothing looked visibly wrong, but inside my body everything felt wrong. I was exhausted constantly, and not regular tired either. I mean the kind of exhaustion where your body feels heavy before the day even starts. I'd stand up and my heart would race. I'd get dizzy randomly. Sometimes I felt like my body was panicking even when my mind wasn't. And back then I didn't understand why. I didn't know what POTS was. I didn't understand nervous system dysregulation. I didn't know trauma could physically affect the body. I just knew I felt sick. And honestly, when you're young and chronically ill, it's terrifying because adults keep asking you questions you don't know how to answer. What does it feel like? Are you anxious? Did you drink water? Maybe you're just stressed. But how do you explain survival to people when survival is all you've ever known? How do you explain that your body feels unsafe all the time even when nothing is technically happening? As I got older and learned more about both CPTSD and POTS, things started making sense in a way that honestly broke my heart a little. Because POTS is a nervous system disorder and CPTSD deeply affects the nervous system too. The connection felt impossible for me to ignore. My nervous system spent years trapped in fight or flight before physical symptoms even fully developed. Adrenaline became normal, stress became normal, hypervigilance became normal. My body never got the chance to feel safe long enough to regulate itself properly. Imagine revving a car engine every single day for years without it ever shutting off. Eventually, the engine just burns out. And that's what my body feels like sometimes. Like it survived too hard for too long. Too long. And I think people underestimate what prolonged trauma actually does to a person physically. Your body keeps score. Even when your mind tries to move on, your nervous system remembers. That's why trauma survivors can react physically to things that don't even seem threatening anymore. The body remembers survival patterns long after the danger is gone. And for me, I truly believe my body got stuck there. Stuck in survival, stuck in fight or flight, stuck preparing for danger that never fully left my nervous system. And eventually that survival started showing up physically. Through dizziness, through adrenaline dumps, through tachycardia, through exhaustion, through feeling like my body was malfunctioning all the time. Sometimes I think my body was screaming, though, what my mouth never got the chance to say. One of the hardest parts of having invisible illnesses is trying to convince people something is wrong while looking okay on the outside. Because people see your face, not your nervous system. And honestly, the medical journey was truly exhausting. Appointments after appointments, tests after tests, questions after questions, explaining symptoms over and over again. Sometimes feeling dismissed, sometimes feeling unheard. When you already grew up feeling emotionally invalidated, medical invalidation hits differently because it reinforces the same message your nervous system already learned. You're overreacting. You're too sensitive. Maybe it's just all in your head. But it wasn't in my head. My body was genuinely struggling. And I think that's something a lot of trauma survivors with chronic illness experience. You start doubting yourself because you've spent your whole life being taught not to trust your own reality. So even while your body is screaming at you, part of you still wonders if you're somehow imagining it. That kind of self-doubt is exhausting. I don't think people realize how exhausting though it is living with both CPTSD and POTS at the same time. It feels like your mind and body are both constantly overstimulated. You're physically exhausted but mentally hyper alert. Your body wants rest but your nervous system doesn't know how to relax, and honestly that combination can feel unbearable sometimes. There were periods in my life where I genuinely felt trapped inside my own body, like I couldn't escape it. My nervous system reacted to everything: stress, noise, conflict, overheating, crowded places, and just being emotionally overwhelmed. And when you live like that long enough, your world slowly becomes smaller. You start calculating energy constantly. You think about exits everywhere you go. You wonder if there's somewhere to sit. You mentally prepare for crashes before events even happen. Healthy people spend energy, chronic ill people ration it. And trauma survivors do the same emotionally. So when you combine both together, life can start feeling like survival math. How much energy do I have today? How safe do I feel? How much can my nervous system truly handle? And that's exhausting. I think one of the deepest pains of chronic illness caused by trauma is grieving the person you could have become. Sometimes I wonder who I would have been if my nervous system grew up around safety instead of fear. Would my body function differently? Would I trust people more? Would I feel calmer? And would my life just feel lighter? And honestly, grieving that hurts, because trauma steals things from you before you even understand what's happening. It steals innocence, safety, peace, and sometimes health too. There were moments where I felt angry at my body for failing me, but over time I realized my body didn't fail me. My body adapted to survive the environment it was trapped in. My nervous system learned survival because it had to, and honestly, that realization changed the way I view myself. Instead of seeing myself as weak, I started realizing how much my body endured. Because surviving years of emotional and mental abuse while carrying chronic illness is not weakness, it's survival. I think for most of my life, survival was my personality. I didn't know anything else. I knew how to brace myself, prepare myself, and protect myself. But I didn't but I didn't know how to relax. I didn't know how to feel fully safe. And healing has forced me to realize something painful. Sometimes trauma survivors feel uncomfortable in peace because chaos became so familiar. And that's such a heartbreaking thing to realize. Your nervous system gets so used to survival that calm almost feels suspicious. Even now, I'm still learning how to live instead of just survive. I'm still learning that rest is allowed, that softness is allowed, that my value is not based on how much pain I can tolerate silently. And honestly, chronic illness forced me to slow down enough to confront all of this, because when your body physically forces you to stop, eventually your emotions catch up too. And the truth is, I still struggle. This is one of those stories where this isn't one of those stories where I'm magically healed and everything became just perfect. I still deal with POTS symptoms, I still deal with CPTSD. I still have days where my nervous system feels exhausted from carrying years of invisible weight. There are still moments I grieve my body, still moments I feel so frustrated, still moments where survival mode just creeps back in. But I think what changed most of this, I stopped blaming myself for what trauma did to my nervous system. For years I treated myself like I was broken. Now I realized my body was responding exactly the way traumatized bodies often do. My nervous system wasn't weak, it was overwhelmed. And honestly, surviving this long with both trauma and chronic illness is something I'm truly proud of now. Because there are moments I genuinely didn't know how I'd keep going, but somehow I did, and I still am. If you're listening to this and your body changed after trauma, I need you to hear me when I say this. You are not crazy, your symptoms are real. Your body is not betraying you. Trauma affects the nervous system deeply, and surviving prolonged emotional pain changes people physically more than the world talks about. You are not weak because you're exhausted. You're not lazy because your body crashes. You're carrying an invisible weight most people cannot see. And honestly, surviving that every day already takes strength. Sometimes survival looks dramatic, but sometimes survival looks quiet too. Taking medication, canceling plans, resting, crying, going to appointments, trying again tomorrow. That still counts and you still count. Thank you guys for listening to this episode. This one was heavy for me, but it was truly important. Because for so long I separated my trauma from my illness, and really they were always connected. My body learned survival before it ever learned safety, and I think that shaped everything. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who might need it. And as always, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening, and thank you for allowing me to tell my story. Honestly, this is Amber Resilience Co. And no matter how hard your body or mind battles some days, keep going. Survival got us here. Now we're learning how to live too.